Welcome to Discovery Church.
G'day, One Heart. Matt Destry here. Excited to be opening the Word with you again for One Heart Homes happening right around Melbourne today and this week. So we're going to be looking at Joshua chapter 1. So if you've got your Bible, I want you to turn to Joshua chapter 1. I'm going to be reading from the ESV version, the ESV. And we're going to start by reading verses 1 through to 9. Then we'll follow through and read a couple more verses as we come to apply this text a little bit later. I'm going to read the passage, then we'll dive straight into it. So Joshua chapter 1, starting at verse 1 and going through to verse 9. The title of this message is called COVID and the Death of Moses. I want you to write that at the top, COVID and the death of Moses. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore rise, go over the Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I'm giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I've given to you, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea, towards the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I'll be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you, so be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give to them. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do all the law that Moses, my servant, commanded you. Don't turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. The book of this law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you might be careful to do according to all that is written in it. Then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Don't be frightened. Don't be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Okay, that's Joshua chapter 1, verse 1 to 9. I'm going to speak prophetically to us today, guys, and I want you guys to hear this as young adults, as people involved in One Heart Homes, as people involved in our young adult ministry, as people involved in Discovery Church. I want you to hear this because I want to speak prophetically into our future as a church. So if you're wondering about where we're going, this is the message, this is the time for that. And we're going to have questions like we do every week at One Heart Homes, questions at the end for you to be able to discuss inside of your home groups as well. And the message is called COVID and the Death of Moses. The last couple of years through our planet, it has been a generation-defining time. The last 2 years, it's a once-in-a-generation event that has happened, once-in-a-100-year pandemic, and none of us could have predicted the change and the disruption that the last 2 years have been. None of us could have predicted it. And yet here we are, we're towards the end of 2021, and we're kind of coming into something else now, into a new space. We have banned in our house the words going back to normal because it's just not happening. We will not be going back to normal. Normal is now a new thing. Back to normal does not exist. There is only forward from here. The people of God were on a similar kind of, the cusp of a similar edge of a season. You might remember the people of Israel, their crowning glory, their framing story, if you like, is the Exodus. Coming out of Egypt, being released from slavery, and they've been told we're going to go into the promised land. And yet that gap, the 40-year gap between moving from out of Egypt and then into the promised land, was that wilderness time, that wilderness season that Moses led them in the desert. And they, right now, where we read in Joshua, they're right on the edge of a new season. They're right there at the edge of the river, about to cross over into the promised land, the land that God promised to the generations before them that he was going to give to them. And yet the way that God speaks to Joshua is like this, very, very frank. He says in verse 2, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over the Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I'm going to give to them. And I want to say to you, my friends, today, the world that you knew in 2019 is now dead. It is a different place. We are living in a different time. We have ahead of us a season of disruption. Things are not going back to the way they were. We are now going to be adjusting to a new future that each one of us have to grapple with moving forward. So the death of that old season has happened, and now we're looking at something new. The people of Israel could not move forward until Moses died. There was a sense to which when Moses died, that opened a way for them to be able to move forward into the promised land. And something similar is happening with your life and with mine. So my question to you, my first question to you in this time together is, what needs to die in you in order for you to be able to move forward? So much has died, and of course where there is death, there is grief. And each of us have lost many, many things in this pandemic season. Maybe you've lost a job, maybe you've lost a friendship, maybe you lost money, maybe you lost that sense of security. We've all lost those things, and rather than getting angry about it, I would encourage you to first stop and grieve those losses. In Australia, we are blessed to have not lost that many lives, like in many places around the world, and even today where the pandemic is absolutely ravaging lives. We've not lost that many lives, and that's a blessed thing. But we have experienced loss in many different ways. And I want to encourage you to say, well, what is it that you've lost, and how can you best grieve those things? Because unless you grieve them, you'll be stuck there. And then if you're stuck there, you can't move forward. And you can't ignore it, because it'll end up just popping up, resurfacing in your life sometime later. So what have you got to grieve now in order for you to be able to move forward? The people of God had to grieve Moses' death in order for them to then be able to make peace with that and move on into the promised land under Joshua. And we're coming into a new season as a church. Over the last month, we've been talking to you about the location, Mount Evelyn, the place that we are. We've been talking about the leverage, the gifts that we have. And today I want to focus on the land. In Mount Evelyn, on Monbulk Road, the site where we currently meet as Discovery Church is a 5-acre site with a 10-acre old lemon farm next door. And for me as a leader, and for Jody together, it's a stewardship issue. We've got to think about, what is it that we're called to? How are we called to steward that land, to really kind of use it as a resource to bless the community and the people around us? Moses could only take the people so far, and yet they were now on the cusp of a new season, thinking about what's ahead. And we want to think about what's ahead as well. And this land that we have in Mount Evelyn, I mean, this is where we've been placed. This is a land that we've been given to steward. It has a great history. The Wurundjeri people were the traditional owners of this land. They stewarded this place. They lived, worked, played on this land. And they stewarded it, cultivated it, they used it, and they grew here. Then if this land has been farmland for the last 100 or so years. It's been used for the cultivation of crops and for fruit. It's been used in those kinds of ways. In 1946, a guy called Ralph Proctor bought the house up on the corner of MacKillop Road and Monbulk Road and developed a farm here. He came back from World War II and settled here with his family in that very house. It's been used in those kinds of ways. We're walking now with council to talk to them about what's going to be the best use of the space to be able to bless and serve our community. We're talking with the Mount Evelyn Township Group to talk about what could be possibilities to be able to serve. What do people need in our region? There's a certain characteristic and character to the soil here. Only certain things grow in certain places. And we're talking about what is it that could grow here in this place. This church has always been a seedbed for missions. It's been a seedbed for church planting. It's been a seedbed for creativity. It's been a seedbed for recovery ministries for people to get their lives back on track. What could that be in the future? We're thinking now 1, 3, 5, 7 years ahead of time. We moved Discovery Community Care from Lilydale back up into Mount Evelyn for that very reason, to continue to explore and cultivate that. And by God's provision, another Christian organisation, Elisha Care, has moved in to take over the lease for us in Lilydale. Another way that God is faithful in providing to us. We have a special future ahead here, and I'm not sure how many of you have done the prayer walk so far, but I've been privileged to do the prayer walk a number of times now with people in Discovery Church, and just to hear the ideas that people have when you get the soil under your feet, when you feel the ground under your feet and you walk around and you connect with what it is that God's done here in the past and the potential and the future that He has for us here in this place. It's actually crazy. We're dreaming of prayer walks. We're dreaming of crisis care housing. We're dreaming of retreat centers. We're dreaming of adventure playgrounds. We're dreaming of community markets. We're dreaming of all of these kinds of things. We're dreaming of recording studios, a whole lot that could be done, chapels, everything that could be done here on this 5 acres, 10 acres next door. What could we steward that really served people, not served us? We're here to make the world better. We're here to make our city prosper. You're here as a person who follows Jesus to bring creation and recreation to light in the people around you. So what could that be in these days? For the people of Israel, they got to the edge of this river. Moses had died, and then they were about to embark on something new. And I want to tell you, church, we're not going back to the way that it was. Just because we start on-site services next week doesn't mean that everything's going to be just like business as usual. I want to encourage you to gather next Sunday. I want to encourage you to gather 9, 11, 5, wherever you can make it. I want to encourage you to gather because being part of community, we have missed that collective effervescence, that sense of being together in a room, singing with one voice. We've missed it. We've missed that connection point of gathering and sitting under the Word of God as it preached live. We're going to continue to do stuff online every week. That will not change. It will not change. The world has changed, and there are so many people now who join Discovery Church and who are part of our community, and primarily they connect online, and that's not going to change. But I want to encourage you, if you are local to Mount Evelyn, I want to encourage you to gather next week, 9, 11, and 5. We're going to meet, and we've kept it at 5 o'clock at night so that you can go home and connect with your One Heart home, and then use that message, use that time as the discussion for your One Heart homes. But for now, you can expect a couple of things from us moving forward. As we move forward as a church into 2022, you can expect a couple of things from us here. The first one, and so we're going to read from verse 10. I'm going to read to you read verse 10 to verse 12. Joshua commanded the officers of the people, pass through the midst of the camp and command the people, prepare your provisions, for within 3 days you are to pass over this Jordan, going to take the possession of the land that the Lord is giving you. And verse 16, they answered Joshua, all that you've commanded us we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we obeyed Moses in all things, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. A couple of things that you can believe for, that you can expect from Jody and I in the season that is ahead. And the first one is this: we will be focusing a lot on vision. We're focusing a lot on moving forward, on what's ahead, on the way that God is going to use and bless our community through Discovery Church and in and around Discovery Church. You read that there in that verse, they say, pass through, command the people, within 3 days you were to pass over this Jordan to go in and take possession of the land. And that is something that is going to be important to us as we move forward. We want to keep vision in front of us, church. We want to keep that front and center, what it is that God's called us to do and who it is that God's called us to be. Secondly, we're going to be focusing on provision. On provision. You see that there in the passage again. Joshua commanded the officers of the people, pass through the midst of the camp and say to them, prepare your provisions. And I want to say to you, prepare your provisions, guys. Get your budget sorted. Do story day so you can figure out where you've been, what it is that's in your heart, and what it is that God's given you as a passion point so that you can use that. What is it that you've got to give? Do an inventory of what's in your own life that you know what it is that you can give away, what it is that you can sow, what it is that you can bring generously into the lives of others. We're going to focus on that, and Jody and I will not shy away from talking about money, because what we do with our money is a huge part of our spirituality. Jesus said, you can see where someone's heart is by where they put their money. And so we're going to be talking about that. Prepare your provisions, because what we want to build and what God called us to steward in terms of this space is going to cost. It's going to cost all of us time, money, resources, energy, the whole thing. And that's what it is to be a person of faith. What it is to be a disciple. When Jesus said, take up your cross, leave it all behind, and follow me. And thirdly, we're going to be focusing on supervision. They say to Joshua, look, we're going to follow you, Joshua, as we followed Moses, just so long as God's with you like he was with Moses. And I want to say to you, who's over you? Who are you investing in? But who are you referencing in? So many young people at the moment making huge decisions, but with really bad advice. Instagrams shouldn't be your advisor. Facebook shouldn't be your advisor. Ask people who know what's going on. Talk to somebody trusted in your world. Get a few good counselors, counselors, both professionals, but also friends who can speak into your life. Focusing on supervision, because it's not all about what we do, but a lot of it is about what's going on in our heart. And as we move forward, guys, as you put gold closer to fire, the impurities come out, and the impurities are going to come out of us as we move forward on this journey. You will not be allowed to be the same person you are now in 5 years. You just won't be allowed to. God won't allow it. He's going to change you. He's going to make you more like his son, and those impurities are going to come out. Now, who's going to be around you to catch you in that moment? Who's going to be around you to actually get you kind of on track? Who are you going to be able to share that with? We're going to be focusing on those things, on supervision as well. So a couple of questions as we finish up today, and I want you to discuss these in your group. First question is this: what needs to die in your life in order for you to move forward? What needs to die? Because there are things that you can't take with you over the river. For Israel, Moses was one of those, was that person. He had to die in order for them to be able to move across. What needs to die in your life for you to be able to move across into the future that God has for you? That's the first question. Second question is this: historically, in terms of Discovery, in terms of the church, what has Discovery shown in you about Jesus? How have you learnt more about Jesus in terms of the context of our church, Discovery? Because that will tell us a lot about our future when we look at what God's already done. You look back and you see what God's done, and it actually gives us a hint into what could be ahead. So the question is, how has Discovery just shown you more of Jesus? It might have been a leader, it might have been a service, it might have been a time, might have been a message, might have been a small group, might have been a conversation, whatever it was. Thirdly, what possibilities can you see for Discovery's future? What possibilities can you see? You see, the vision is collectively discerned. I'll have no problem about getting up and leading us in a direction, but it's actually the people of God that hold the Spirit of God, and the Spirit of God speaks to us all. We prophesy in part, and we need each part to come together. So I want to ask you today, what possibilities can you see for Discovery Church's future? And then fourthly and finally, who are you investing your life into? Who are you investing your life into? Who's being benefited, blessed by the fact that you were there? It might be a work colleague, it might be your family, it could be your friends, it could be a small group that you lead, it could be a ministry area that you lead. You might be called to be a pastor and lead a big group of people. Whatever it is, whose life are you investing into right now? There are questions for today. This is where we're going, guys. We're not going back, we're moving forward. There's no back to normal, there's only moving forward into a new normal as we go into the promised land we're taking as a church. We're excited that you're part of the journey with us, guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you really soon.